Hi, I'm Reagan.
Grace Dunn.
Joe.
Maddie.
Destiny.
Okay, I'm Lauren Dunn, and today I'm going to be talking about climate change, which is something that's very controversial, but it's something I've recently learned more about and have become more educated in. And so I thought I'd speak about it. And for the sake of time, I'm just going to get started because I only have like 5 minutes. So I'll be going through the evidence that supports climate change and shows how it's happening today. And then I'll talk about the future effects that will most likely take place. And following these points, I'll talk about some potential solutions and ways that we can take action. So to start off, global temperature is rising, and the planet's average surface temperature has risen about 1.62 degrees Fahrenheit since the late 19th century. This change was largely driven by carbon dioxide and other human-made emissions into the atmosphere, and most global warming has occurred in the past 35 years, with the 5 warmest years on record taking place since 2010. And so the next thing is oceans are obviously warming, and they have absorbed most of this increased heat, with the top 700 meters of oceans showing warming more than 0.4 degrees Fahrenheit since 1969. And because of this, ice sheets are shrinking, and data from NASA's Gravity Recovery and Climate Experiment show Greenland lost an average of 286 billion tons of ice per year between 1993 and 2016, and within that same time period, Antarctica lost 127 billion tons of ice during that time, and this rate has tripled in the last decade, and also glaciers are retreating almost everywhere around the world. And with that, snow covers are decreasing as well, and satellite observations reveal that the amount of spring snow cover in the northern hemisphere has decreased over the past 5 decades, and the snow is beginning to melt earlier each year. And with that, sea levels are rising, and so the global sea level rose about 8 inches in the last century, and this rate has doubled in the last 2 decades, which is accelerating every year as well. And so the last one I'll talk about for the sake of time is ocean acidification. Since the Industrial Revolution, the acidity of the surface ocean waters have increased 30%, and this is a result of more carbon dioxide being put in the atmosphere, which is then going to be absorbed into the ocean. And the amount of carbon dioxide absorbed by the upper layer of the ocean is it has increased 2 billion tons per year. So with that, I'm going to now be talking about the future effects of this global climate change. So this is going to continue to change over this century and the next century and beyond, and that's obviously going to depend primarily on the amount of heat-trapping gases emitted globally. And with that, the temperature is going to continue to rise because human-induced warming is superimposed on a naturally varying climate, and the temperature has not been and will not be consistent over time, continuing on. And the frost-free season will lengthen, which has been increasing nationally since 1980, and the effects of ecosystems and agriculture is going to be affected. And if the heat-trapping gas emissions continue to grow, this length could increase by a month or more across the US by the end of the century. And with that, there's going to be more droughts and heat waves, and the droughts are going to be specific in the Southwest, and the heat waves are going to be everywhere, and they're predicted to become more intense. And the summer temperatures are projected to continue rising, and a reduction of soil moisture is going to worsen the heat waves, obviously. And by the end of the century, what has been a 1 in 20 year extreme heat day is predicted to occur every 2 to 3 years rather than every 20 years. And hurricanes are going to become stronger and more intense, and the intensity, frequency, and duration of the North Atlantic hurricanes, as well as the frequency of the strongest hurricanes, have all increased in the early 1980s, and this contributes, or they don't really know if this is like from man-made emissions or if it's like natural, but regardless, as it gets warmer, as like the climate gets warmer, these rates are going to continue increasing. And so the last future effect, again for the sake of time, is the increase of the sea level, which is predicted to rise 1 to 4 feet by the 22nd century, and this is a result of added water from the melting land ice and the expansion of seawater as it warms. and in the next several decades, storm surges and high tides could combine with sea levels and land subsidence to further increase flooding in various regions. And so with all of this, 7 out of 10 Americans believe climate change is happening, and 6 out of 10 even care about it. But 2/3 of Americans rarely even talk about this, and I think a lot of research is showing that there's like 4 reasons why people don't talk about climate change, because they either think they don't know enough, or they don't want to talk about scary things, they don't think they can make a difference, or they don't want to cause an argument. So I definitely fell into those categories, and I recently figured I probably should look more into this, and yeah, I found like a bunch of helpful resources, and it kind of like opened my eyes to the different things that I could be a part of with the solution. And there was this cool website called beforetheflood.com, and it had a bunch of different links to all these different solutions, whether that's just donating money or like raising awareness for it or being a part of organizations. So I encourage you to look at that website. It's super impactful, and a lot of the research was also showing that we can meet all of our energy needs for heating, electricity, and transportation through 100% clean renewable sources by the mid-century, which is obviously going to take a lot of investment and time and money. But yeah, so regardless of if you still deny climate change, or if you know it's there but you're not going to do anything about it, at least taking the first step to explore more into what climate change is and how it's affecting our world. But with that being said, thank you for listening. Thank you for your time.